such wonderful work today?
I think my family had a lot of influence on me because I've seen my mother, when I was growing up, my mother was a great peacemaker, and she would go in the village making peace and talking with people. And also my home was a home where we were sharing everything, the little we had. My parents taught us not to grumble, but share every little thing we had. And when I was growing up, I saw refugees coming from Congo when there were a lot of problems there. There was war. That was way back in 1964. I was small, and I could see my parents taking in these refugees, and we would really not feel happy because we didn't have enough food to eat, but we were forced to share with them, and that inspired me forever.
Wow. I want to point out that people can meet Sister Rosemary, see the film, read the book today, February the 19th at 12 o'clock at Barnes & Noble. This is the DePaul campus, downtown Chicago branch of Barnes & Noble. And then Sowing Hope will be filmed. The screening will be at DePaul later tonight at 5 p.m. That's the lower level theater on Jackson Boulevard. Let's talk about the conditions in Uganda. And I'm going to warn people that these stories are not pretty. There's a warlord that has kind of ruled the roost there in Uganda for over 20 years, almost 25 years at this point, Joseph Kony. He's a part of the LRA, the Lord's Resistant Army. He pretty much kills at will, rapes and kills at will. This is one bad hombre. Living conditions in your country are nothing short of atrocious, with kids who really have no way out, but you have found a way to help these kids. What have you done?
I actually, as you say, I didn't do a lot of things, but I just opened the door and opened my heart to receive these kids who were running away from the rebels and trying to hide from them every night. And actually, these children were known by the international community, and sometimes people knew them by the film or the documentary which came out called Invisible Children, and we were calling them night commuters. And of course, in the United States, a lot of people knew about Invisible Children. Those are the kids who are hiding. And up to today, I say these children are actually visible because they are still with us. And we were keeping them. And much as we were trying to keep them, a good number of them got kidnapped by the rebels and were taken to captivity and trained as child soldiers. And of course, of the rebels, of the children abducted, there were girls and boys. And the girls were always used as sex slaves, trained as child soldiers. And some of them managed to escape, to come back even after being maimed with deep trauma, and they were coming back with their children. And the worst scenario was that many times these children didn't find who to fall on, and they didn't find people who could open arms and accept them, much as they suffered so much. And that was exactly the background on which I started receiving these kids, to say they can come and we give them some skills to restore their dignity and really restore their lost childhood. Because I knew these kids really went through terrible atrocities. They had been forced also to kill some of their siblings. Some were forced to kill their own parents. And also in the book Sowing Hope, if people get to read it, you will get some stories of these children. Some of them mention some very, very painful thing. Like there's one girl who actually recounted how she was forced to kill her own little sister.
They couldn't cross a river. They were unable to cross a river. She couldn't carry her over, and that was the alternative. She had to kill her sister.
Now, why wouldn't these children choose death over these terrible things they were forced to do, and did some of them?
Well, it was something I don't understand. I should say these children really grew a kind of resilience by themselves, little as they were. Some of them were able to walk with these rebels many, many miles. And some who got tired actually were asking, say, I cannot walk anymore, allow me to rest. And when they asked to be allowed to rest, the rebels would say, okay, we're going to get your friends to let you rest. And that meant they would choose to kill them. So they say, if any of you ask to rest, you will be treated the same. That was the way they were using technically to frighten the children, not to ask to rest and not to ask to stop anymore. And of course, even if these children managed to walk, a good number of them also died on the way. A good number of them also got drowned in rivers as they were crossing. And always I tell people when they ask me, how many people, how many children do you think were abducted? They say, any number I can give you, any number anyone can give you would just be an estimate.
Sure.
Because no one knows exactly how many children just got lost and remained in the bush, how many children got drowned and some were killed. So we would only talk of estimates.
Talk about, at some point, Sister Rosemary, you said, we got to do something about this. We got to figure out a way to make these kids' lives tolerable and better and look toward the future. How did that play out?
Actually, it was a very, very difficult thing for me because at one time I found it was so overwhelming and I didn't know any way in which I could make their life better. The only thing I thought was just giving them love, compassion, and acceptance.
Yeah.
And walking together with them, accompanying them in the painful way, just to let them get out of the trauma. That's why we chose the title of the book, Sowing Hope. It's just like helping them get into these skills, using their own hands with the needles, sewing clothes, sewing so many things. It's really like sewing their own pain away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way we were accepting them. And I knew that these skills would one day help these girls to become self-reliant, self-supporting, and they could also help their own children. I knew I couldn't accompany them all alone. But again, that was not enough. It is only because of one lawyer in the United States here from Oklahoma who lost his son because of drug abuse. He was called by his friends who visited Uganda, and they went northern Uganda right to the place where I am working. And the man who took him, actually I had known him before from Washington, D.C., Bob Hunter. I call him my dad because he's always been a good friend to my family. He said, well, let's go and see what Sister Rosemary is doing. When they reached there, they found me with all these kids who come every night to sleep. This man came back and said, if I have any bad day, I will not even think about it anymore. First, he said when his son died, he was walking like a dead man himself.
Sure.
But after seeing the suffering the kids were going through, he said, I don't have any sympathy for myself. I must do everything to help the work of Sister Rosemary. So he came back and started the organization called Prosper Africa, and it was all about raising awareness in the United States, how people can support, how people can also come to know what is going on and get involved. Because getting involved will be like we are all fighting to stop evil, which can happen in future. If we don't help these children, if we don't give our lives, if we don't love them, if we don't accept them, what happened with the Joseph Kony rebel will happen in future. These kids can be perpetrators of this kind of thing. So they need to be offered that love and acceptance.
Yeah, our history will keep repeating.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right. This is just tugging at my heartstrings. It's sad enough that this happens to anyone, but after being a mom, I can't even imagine your kids being ripped away from you in the middle of the night, forced to do these atrocious things. And I think we sit here all comfortable in Chicago and we say, oh, that's so sad.
Right.
But there is a way to help, and what can we do to help?
Really, first, in the first place, I would like everyone to speak to other people about what they hear.
Mm-hmm.
If you read the book, if you watch the documentary, pass the word to other people. And also, one thing I'd like to encourage people all, don't just say the war has ended in northern Uganda. The war has not ended because people are struggling with what they went through, the pain they went through for the last 20 to 25 years. They are human beings. They are bearing the scar in their hearts.
Right.
You can't hear gunshots since we never had gunshots from 2006. But these people had these gunshots for all these years. They are still hearing gunshots in their hearts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pain. So we still have to get involved. People in the United States we have to raise awareness that this is dealing with the humanity. There is actually a lost generation. How can we help them? How can we put them to education? How can we make them again useful members of the society? We are all talking about the future, and we are keeping, struggling to walk towards hope
Of
with
course.
them and everybody.
Of course. More with Sister Rosemary, whose harrowing story can be told in Sowing Hope, both the book and the documentary. At noon, later on at Barnes & Noble, the DePaul campus, downtown Chicago branch, you can meet Sister Rosemary and certainly buy the book. And then later on tonight at 5 p.m., the film will be shown, Sowing Hope. This is at DePaul, the lower level theater on Jackson Boulevard. It's Bill F. and Wendy Snyder. More with Sister Rosemary in just a moment on WGN.